question. One of the questions that Paddy asked me, and it might mean more to you, but what face of Jesus do you encounter in your work? Is it suffering? Is it joyful? Is it disability? What are the type of situations that you run into that you enjoy helping with? And anyone can answer that question if they wish.
I will answer like from my perspective. I have definitely encountered different like forms of Jesus. Like I would say there is many, like I've encountered suffering where you have like where you're exhausted and yet you have to be like you choose to be joyful because there's people looking at you being like, I want to experience God from you, and you have to be like, okay, rejuvenate, like say a prayer. And it's in that suffering then that you can experience joy, because often it's when you don't want to like pour into these young people then that they come back being like, wow, like I really want to give my faith a chance. So it's like it's suffering in a way that's it is like hard, but it's like it's nearly always fruitful. So I would say I find a very loving like, and like it's like kind of rewarding Jesus almost in that suffering, then that leads to me being joy filled. And then I like would see all the grace of being joy filled is from him, like because I choose to be joyful in that suffering, if that makes sense.
I'll direct it to yourself there, Joe, if I may. But when you say that you see the face of Jesus, is like, can you give me a situation that one of those terms has come up with?
There's actually, so obviously we work in the coffee shop down in Washington Street in Cork City, and we have quite a lot of customers that are just struggling. Obviously we're in the middle of a pandemic at the moment and everyone is finding it tough in some way or another. And there's actually this man that comes in. He comes in pretty much every single day, and he was actually really struggling with gambling addictions, and we'd say he'd probably like at the poverty line kind of thing. Sometimes he could afford his coffee, sometimes he couldn't. And like it was really beautiful for our team, and it still is. Like he comes in every day, and to be able to like see this man struggling and to one like give him a bit of our joy. Like we'd really strive to not let him leave the coffee shop without having a smile on his face. He'd come in the morning, he'd be like having a rough day, he'd just be fed up with everything. But if he left the coffee shop with a bit of a smile on our face, regardless of whether it's because we're just having a laugh or having a joke with him or whatever, like he'd always leave the coffee shop with a smile on his face. So that's like one side of like what he was saying. You can turn that like suffering and struggle into like a joy for him, but also for us.
And would you get personal with that person? You obviously get personal with him and you get to know his situation pretty well.
Yeah, totally. Every single time he's in, we learn something more about him.
Yeah, well, we've been here since November. We just learned the other day that he had a daughter in Portugal. We were like, wow.
Right.
Yeah.
And I have a question for you then, Talia. Forgive me if I got the